How do you write a short story? Well, you'll never write a short story unless you understand this really simple, obvious thing that should go without saying and never does. A short story is short, okay? You haven't got much elbow room. In that sense, it's closer to a poem than it is to a novel. Now, if you struggle with writing short, then you're going to have to do some work here, or you're going to have to understand the form. And of course, the best way to understand the form is to read short stories, really great ones. Read Chekhov, read George Saunders, read A.M. Holmes, read Zadie Smith. You can read me if you want. But you need to look at people who have published short stories, not just one, not just two, but a lot, and see what you can learn. You can always learn from what people have done already. And other writers, you don't need to know them. Other writers are your best friends. So if you're interested in the short story form, then really take a close look at how it's done and read it like a writer, not just as a reader. So it's short, and you haven't got room for character development, and you haven't got room for plot drama. What you've got room for is a simple, single idea that you can play out within 2,500, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 words max, and you got to get it finished, okay? So what really matters is that you have this simple, single idea, and then you work it through to its conclusion within the confines of the short story. And that's what I'm saying, confines. This thing has sides. It has a top and a bottom, and it has sides. What a short story is not, 100% not, is just a standalone chapter of a novel, something that you could pick out and just say, oh, well, that works. Well, you know what? It doesn't, because readers too have different expectations with a short story. They want to know that the thing starts, something develops, and then it finishes. It wants to feel satisfying at the end. That doesn't mean it has to have a happy ending, of course not. It doesn't mean it needs closure in the Hollywood sense, but you have to really feel that it's finished and not just stopped. A lot of people go in really slowly into a short story when they're trying to learn to write one, way too slowly. And then they don't know how to finish and they've run out of room, so they just stop. And that's a failure. Above all, you'll be going back to write the beginning, probably several times, because I said it's closer to poetry in form than to a novel, but I'll also say here that understanding the short story is closer to screenwriting than it is to the novel. The golden rule of screenwriting is that you go in late and you get out early. That is, you cut away as much superfluous matter from a scene as you can. If you don't need it, don't put it in. Now, in writing, maybe we don't need it, but we can always put it in. And long-form fiction is good at that, and it's forgiving of that. And that's why lots of long-form novels that you read just tend to run on and on, and they say too much. With a short story, you can't do that. So you have to have a powerful opening. And there you'll lay out your stall. There you'll set out your idea. There we'll hear the voice of the narrator, or maybe a dialogue between two people, or maybe we're at a party where there's one main person who's going to tell us what's happening here, but we'll hear other voices as well. So that would be the simple single idea. We're at a party. Then we would look for who's speaking, and we'd look for what they're speaking about, or we look for the idea unfolding in the narrator's head, or a single action in time. Maybe somebody sees a kid falling off a bridge and they're trying to work out what just happened. It doesn't matter what your idea is, as long as it's good and strong, and the voice that you're telling it with is good and strong too. And that you can tell that story in, out, and it's over. So make sure that the voice is strong, the voice is personal, the idea is good and simple, and you can execute it in the time that you've got. And just as you have a strong beginning, make sure you have a strong ending, right? No slack, no waste, no hesitation, in, out, finished. That's how you write a short story. Bye.